So it's like, it's a huge concert hall. It's all very serious, blah, blah, blah. And I sent him the album and I said, this is the new album. I really love to play. I could play in a public toilet, whatever. Right?
Tell me about where you grew up a little bit first.
Okay, so I'm sitting, it looks like I'm sitting in the woods. I'm not.
It's
I'm actually,
beautiful.
well, thank you. But I actually live pretty, not downtown exactly, but in the middle of a city called Bergen. And that's, this is a music city, which kind of grew into some kind of worldwide recognition as a music city because of black metal. I don't even know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
yeah. So
actually, I had a friend growing up in high school that was like obsessed with black metal.
Oh, really?
Like Cradle of Filth and Mayhem and a lot, like all those bands. He loved that.
Yeah. And like, well, those guys actually recorded like Mayhem, Gorgoroth, well, all the classic like legendary black metal or first black metal albums were actually recorded in the concert hall where I had my release concert for this album.
Really?
So when I did the release album, I had a harp, a cello, a brach, and a violin, and it was me singing and playing the guitar. But the place I did the release concert was actually the cradle of black metal, Norwegian black metal, Norwegian black metal.
That's so fascinating because the record isn't black metal one bit.
No, not at all. But it's funny because the guy who did the sound for the stream, he tours with Kings of Convenience and Boy Pablo, and sometimes does sound with DATAROCK. But he was one of the original metal sound engineers. So I've known him since I was like 12. Because I mean, it's a pretty small town. I guess it kind of works a little bit like how Los Angeles is a place where when you visit Los Angeles, like nobody is from Los Angeles besides Steve Aoki. Like nobody is from Los Angeles, right?
Right, exactly.
And Bergen is like, it's the town where, I mean, Norway is really small, man. Well, it's actually a pretty big country, but it's only 5 million people here.
Oh, that's not big. Yeah, that's smaller than LA.
Well,
it's like half the size of LA.
Yeah, but it's crazy. The coastal line of Norway is the same as the US, like both sides. So it's a huge country, but it's not many people living here. And Bergen is the music town where all the weirdos from, I guess, all over the country would move, because we had like this really exciting music scene where you didn't really have any. Well, you had some, but you didn't have a lot of like professional music industry people here. You just had studios and a creative scene, right?
Sure.
So yeah, and it was very open and inclusive, and it wasn't very competitive. So everybody was very collaborative. And for instance, when we wrote our first contracts, we got our friends in like Kings of Convenience and Enslaved and so on to help us go through all the details, because they're very open about their contracts and their positive and negative experiences. So
that's nice to have. I mean, like to have people kind of giving you feedback instead of just being like closed off and saying, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the benefit of a small town, right? So so it's a small town. It's the second largest city in Norway, but it's still a really small town. So so it's like, in a small town, like if you trash something, you don't know for sure that the person you're talking to isn't the brother or sister of a person affiliated to another band or whatever, so you get this really so it's like, it's the small town vibe, but at the same time it has kind of a big town music scene, because it must be something like 30 pretty big international careers, probably more, in our little town of only 350,000 people. So you have Kygo from Bergen.
I was gonna say Kygo. I was gonna ask because he's like obviously massive currently. I mean, and he's from Norway, but he's from the same town.
Yeah, his father actually has an office like a 3-minute walk from where I'm sitting right now, and his production team has the floor below our company downtown. So yeah, it's a very small town. And Alan Walker, he's also a huge I guess EDM artist. Yeah. Well, I think he had like one of the most streamed songs of the planet 2 years ago called "Faded."
Oh, I remember that song.
Yeah, and he was just a kid going to school right down the street, same school as my daughter, coincidentally. But anyway, so he was just a little kid, and he wrote that song "Fade," and then it goes to 1 billion.
I was gonna say on YouTube, didn't it have like one of the biggest streaming numbers ever? Like it had like a couple billion streams.
Yes, yeah, and it was completely absurd. The kid was just like a pupil at actually a Christian high school. So he was like this. It was the first song he ever made, and that's what happened to the guy. And I think the reason why everything happened with him was because some Japanese gaming music channel on YouTube uploaded his song, and then boom, off it went.
I've heard a few artists that were able to blow up that way. Like their song went into like an anime YouTube channel or something, and it got like a crazy amount of fans.
Yeah, and it's like this kid who's just a student at a high school ends up having more streams that year than Beatles, Rolling Stones, and Michael Jackson put together. It's insane. But I think those things happen because, just because of those people themselves, but also because this town has been a music town for a long, long, long time, right? Mm-hmm. So in this tiny little town, you have those two guys. You also have Aurora. Do you know her? Aurora?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar.
Okay, but for instance, she had the voice of the Northern Wind in Frozen 2.
Oh, okay.
And I think she made some of the music for Frozen. So she's the girl who sang the Frozen song on the Oscars last year.
Okay.
But anyways, and then you have a girl called Sigrid, and this Sigrid and Aurora are more like that's more pop, I guess. Mm-hmm. But then you have someone like Röyksopp, which is electronic. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Röyksopp?
No, I'm not. I'd have to look them up.
Oh, you got to check them out. They're great. And yeah, so it's a very diverse and internationally acclaimed town. Like Sigrid, when she released her first single, I think, but even before she released it, BBC Radio 1 said she is the voice of next year, even before she released the first single. So that was official. She was the voice of next year. And last week she released a new single, and she was #1 streamed in something like 50 countries, like right away. Wow. So it's completely insane. And then on the other side, you have all these black metal artists, and they toured the planet, and they sold out everywhere they go. So it's like, so in the middle of this, you had us, and I started up with thrash metal. So even the guys in Enslaved, so some of those metal guys, like for instance, Enslaved, I've known them since I was 12. I know that sound engineer I mentioned since I was 12. Like a lot of us have known each other since we were 12. And at the time we were playing thrash metal, like old school, I don't know, Metallica or Slayer, and Sepultura was my favorite. But and some of them continued in that same scene and became black metal, and then someone referred to it as Viking metal, and then and someone said progressive metal, and so even with DATAROCK, we've been touring with a band called Purified in Blood. Right, so we've still been affiliated to the metal scene, but also to the experimental electronic scene, and it's all so weird. But all of these guys are just our friends from back in Bergen. So sort of when we started traveling the world, it totally made sense for us to play at a experimental art music festival like Sonar in Barcelona, or a straight up rock festival like Hurricane in Germany, or pop festivals like Reading and Leeds in the UK, or even Coachella. Like 2008, we played Coachella, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect fit for you guys, Coachella.
Yeah, at least it used to be. Now it's more of an EDM festival, isn't it?
It's like EDM and like way mainstream. It's interesting how quickly they've kind of evolved, so to speak. I mean, it used to be like Radiohead and like a lot of like The Cure and some of those type of, and now it's like Beyonce and Eminem are headlining.
I don't know what happened. It's interesting. Like when we played there was 2008, and the program was super exciting. Like Justice played, Animal Collective played, actually Kowinski and all those Ad Banger guys played. Chromeo played before they were a success, so to speak.
Sure.
And I think the headliner the night we played was Prince.
So okay. You played the same year as Prince then. Yeah, they had Prince one year. The first year I went, it was Paul McCartney was the headliner.
Really? Well, I mean, that's cool. That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, he was just that he would fit on any bill. I mean, right? But
he would.
Nobody would be upset.
but it was it was a very different festival back then, and it was it wasn't really Valley girls with hippie makeup. It was like a real music scene. It felt like.
Sure. I know it's so crazy to me how that festival has just become like this huge like international like thing. Like it's the biggest thing ever. Like it literally sells out before they release the lineup.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Damn. But and also I think back in the days it was just one weekend, but now it's split into two separate weekends.
Yeah, it used to be like it only used to be like one. It went from like 1 or 2 days to 3 days to like 2 weekends. It's pretty soon it's gonna be like 2 weeks long.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's probably because it used to be some, I don't know, creative outlet, but now it's a commercial moneymaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what happens, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. It's not unique for Coachella.
No.
But then, I mean, you still have some festivals that are still keeping it real, like Primavera, and well, there are a few left. Yeah. And I gotta say, I'm really happy to see that in Europe or the UK, like now you have like real rock and roll is coming back with like
Slam Dunk, I think is one of the big ones there.
Yeah, and Idols. I really love Idols.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see them live, and it's like, okay, that's how music used to be. That's pure energy, a lot of attitude, very political content, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is real. But no, I think I really like Shame too, like the new band Shame. You should check them out. They're really really good.
I haven't heard of them.
It's a little bit new wave and post punk, but I mean, they look like they're like 19 or 18. I don't know, like very young.
Sure.
Yeah. So and the same thing in Norway. Like you have a artist in Norway who became huge because Billie Eilish said she loved her. Her name is Girl in Red.
Oh yeah, I know Girl in Red.
Yeah. So suddenly I like all these young people playing the guitar again and actually writing chord structures with a logical melodic evolution on top.
What a concept, right?
What a concept. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's not just a loop with a different melody in the verse and the chorus. Like, and that's one of the things that I was afraid people would go into such a strong shock that they would stay in a coma for years from this new album because there was so many chords in my new album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
chords all over the place.
It is chords, and I love the clean guitar you use throughout it. It sounds like a clean guitar. Yeah,
because it's pretty lo-fi because it's recorded actually in the house next door. It's just our home studio.
Oh, okay.
The whole thing is recorded in DATAROCK, and our record company is basically rehearsal space / studio, not a very professional studio, just a little simple studio. And then I was thinking, like initially, I just wanted it to be like a little bit of a punk vibe, but without the distorted guitars. And
totally.
I was even considering not using drums. But
that would have been cool. I mean, it sounds rad as it is, but that's an interesting thought to do no drums.
Yeah, I don't know why. I actually, I play everything on the album myself, and I think drums are so loud. So I always, when I play drums, I have like serious ear protection. I look like a joke when I play drums because I think it's so loud. So I need like, the things you wear when you work.
Like the machine. My kids had those for like the first concerts we'd take them to. They look like headphones, but they're just like a band that like protects your ear.
Yeah. So when I record drums, I have like small headphones in my ears, and I have these protection things on top. And one of the things I really like is there's a few really weird bands that sort of snuck their way into the album, and it's for instance, there's a really interesting band called US Maple. I don't think they're around anymore, but they're really particular. They're so fucking weird.
Oh yeah, I know who they are.
No way, really?
Yeah, well, I know who they are because there's an you know who Alkaline Trio is?
Yeah.
They have a song on their first record where they talk about that band. They reference them.
No way.
Yeah, they talk
like
about
nobody knows this band.
Oh, what's the name of the song? Hold, I'm gonna look it up while you're talking.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, if you want like a quick introduction to US Maple, check out the song "Letter to CC Top," where he sings about Billy Gibbons. It's very confusing. Everything they do is very confusing. But he wrote a letter to Billy Gibbon. He says Billy Gibbon. But anyway, so the way they play the drums and the guitars and everything, it's so weird. I just love it. So like I really love like a lot of weird bands. Like, you know, The Fall is, you know, it's not very The Fall inspired, this album, but that ethos of The Fall, I really love the way they play everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then US Maple does some of the same oddities. I really love the way they think guitar and drums and everything, with like Sea and Cake and Tortoise and all that stuff. So, and one of the things that all these bands have is the complete opposite of a Travis Barker snare drum. It doesn't say spioing. It doesn't say spioing. It doesn't even have, you know, it doesn't say spioing. It says just, you know, so it's like, you know, I don't know what it's called in English, but the metal stuff underneath the snare drum.
Oh yeah, like the little, I don't know what they're called either, but I know what you're talking about. Like the little beads that kind of run under it.
Yeah, that makes it sound like metallic, and I really love when you don't have that on a snare drum. So it almost sounds like a tom, like when the snare drum is just a very deep tom. So that's one of the things I wanted to. If I had to use drums, I wanted to have a snare drum without the metal stuff underneath, because I wanted it to be kind of mellow,
like the doom. And more like okay.
Yeah. And the same, so the guitar is actually a Gibson ES335 from 1976.
Really?
You know, it's not a Telecaster through some, you know, I don't know, screaming distortion pedals. It's a lot of the guitar is, as you say, it's very clean. It's just straight to a Fender Hot Rod DeVille, and it's supposed to be mellow, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a killer sound. The record is. You described it perfectly when you said it's kind of like a punk rock album without the distortion.
Yeah,
like I love that.
Yeah, well, that was kind of what I wanted to do, and you know, those kind of songs, you could probably easily like overproduce it and put in, you know, huge synthesizers and the spioing snare drum and you know, the reverberation, so it sounds like you play in front of 100,000 people in a huge hall. I just wanted it to sound like someone playing a little concert in a student dorm or something.
Yeah. Well, so you had the opportunity to play the record in that hall that you're talking about, that black metal was kind of formed.
Yeah,
like a live stream or something.
Yeah, that was insane. Like I can send you some. I can upload a few songs from the concert. Listen up, this is insane. So I wrote the album, right? I recorded it basically at home, and this is a no budget project. Like, this is a really like super low budget project. So it wasn't like we didn't every time DATAROCK does something, like for instance, all the last 3 singles we did is basically produced by Steve Dubb, a 5 times Grammy award winning producer of the Chemical Brothers, right?
Sure.
So we always go like, I think we need help to make this work. So we always go to some pretty expensive and professional collaborators. But with this one, I was like, this is a no budget thing, so I'm just gonna do everything myself and la la la. And then we sent the recordings to this high profile, very like conservative. Well, it's the biggest art music festival in the Nordic countries, and it's been around for 63 years. So it's a huge concert hall. It's all very serious, blah blah blah. And I sent him the album, and I said, this is the new album. I really love to play. I could play in a public toilet, whatever. Right. and then I was dumb enough to write, and I have arrangements for a string quartet featuring a harp. And they were like, yeah, shit, let's book it. And they booked me to the main concert hall. Right.
Wow.
And it's a big deal. Like it's a big deal. And then and I was like, no, this is 12 songs that I've never played for anyone before, and I have to perform them with 4 professional musicians, and these are like the shit. Like these are in I mean, they're in a again, internationally award-winning symphony orchestra, but also in the national ensemble of contemporary art music. So wow. These are like just pros. One of them, yeah, super pros, and only one of them were from Norway. One of them were from the US. 2 of them were from Lithuania, and I never met them before. None of them, right? So I had 2 short rehearsals because it's so goddamn expensive working with people like that. So I only had 2 short rehearsals that, you know, put together, that's like running through the songs like twice.
Right.
And the orchestral arranger, he knew that these were like super pros. So he wrote these really elaborate, super complex arrangements, string arrangements for these people. And I was like, what the fuck? How are we gonna do this? And then and also, I mean, the whole album is just 28 minutes, right? So I had to add on at least something like 8 additional songs just to fill up an hour.
The set, yeah.
So it even had like a few songs that nobody had ever heard before. They were made for the concert.
Oh, really? So it wasn't like you just pulled DATAROCK songs and did.
Well, yes, yeah,
but,
a few.
But you also played songs that hadn't been released before.
Yeah.
Oh,
because
wow.
I decided like, okay, say this album is going to be hated, like nobody likes it, terrible reviews or whatever. So I just thought, okay, this is my opportunity to record a live recording of the material.
So there you go.
So this fall I'm going to release a live album from that concert, and because of that, I mean, I thought, let's have some exclusive material. My point being, I was so goddamn nervous. I had like 12 glasses of water during sound check, and I thought I was going to faint, right? Because everything these guys played was like, what the fuck? And we didn't have a conductor, so it was like completely random who had the lead and who sets the tone, and only on a few of them I had like a dominant rhythm guitar. Most of them I was so insecure, but like I don't even, it's so complex, some of the songs. I really had to like concentrate just to remember where the hell my hands go, right?
Okay.
So it was like, and to my huge surprise, it worked out well. So
yeah, I can't wait to hear it. That sounds amazing. The record is rad. I can't imagine what it sounds like with like a full, you know, like orchestra-ish behind it, like with the harp and the, you know, you said there's a cello on the album. Yeah, that's rad. I can't wait to hear that.
No, it's gonna.
Was it hard to like was it hard to like reimagine some of the DATAROCK songs to do it?
No, because one of the things that kind of bugs me a little is that a lot of people they have this I mean, most of the people who knows DATAROCK because of a song or 2, perhaps 3, and all those 3 or 1 songs are kind of in the same vein, right? Fa Fa Fa, Give It Up, perhaps Amarillion, True Stories, I don't know, but and those songs are, I mean, they're very beat driven, right?
Sure.
We actually had a booking agent for 10 years who thought everything was programmed, and we're like, are you serious? No, it's not. It's played live with additional drum machine elements. But what do you mean? So anyway, so I thought it was really nice to be able to show that even these DATAROCK songs are pretty classic songwriting, guitar songwriting. Most of them are actually, right? And if you look at DATAROCK's back catalog, it's something like 120 release tracks or something. It's pretty. It's a lot of tracks.
Yeah, you got a lot of songs.
And and some of them are pretty close to what you find on my solo album. So if you listen to, for instance, our second album called Red, The last song on the album is called New Day's Dawn. And when I played that in my solo concert, it sounded just like the new material.
Okay, so you were able to, it wasn't like you picked out like Fa Fa Fa, for example. You picked out songs that were more in the vein of what you were doing.
Yeah,
the new record.
But I felt I had to do Fa 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 too, obviously.
Okay.
So, yeah. But we did them very toned down, and we kind of showed. For instance, Fa Fa Fa, right? You can imagine you've heard it at a party, and everybody goes, yeah, yeah. But the song is the lyrical content and all of that is very similar to the stuff on the new album. Like, I need a shot of ambition. That's not very optimistic. I need a hit of nutrition. I need to fix my ignition. If you want to whip me into shape, I need a plan and a mission, because I'm on a ride fast going nowhere. And that's pretty, I mean, youthful. What's the English word? I don't remember the word, but depressed.
Oh yeah,
lyric,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
And it's really interesting. Like, how did Coca-Cola decide that was a brilliant song to use in a worldwide campaign? Like, why do you do this? So and it's really interesting because people have heard them in advertisement for Coca-Cola, Apple.
Yeah, I was gonna say Apple is a big
song,
one.
Yeah, but the song also went into an international campaign for Google. It was in Sims. It was in FIFA.
I was gonna say FIFA.
Yeah, and I mean tons of other films. Like recently, it was in the Kajillionaire film by. It was produced by Brad Pitt. But and a few weeks ago, it was in a new episode from The Blacklist, and that kind of makes sense. But the rest of it is like it is actually a pretty sad song.
Right.
So I feel like people have a little bit of what is it? How is the phrase? Screwed.
Like a warped sense of what the song is really about.
Yeah, and also what DATAROCK is about. Because if you look at our history, like the kind of music that we played, it wasn't mainstream at all. It was the kind of music where weirdos would come to a DATAROCK show, and we had like the weirdos party. It wasn't like the popular kids party. It was the weirdos party, right? So to our shows, you would have the freaks and the geeks, right? That was the whole point of DATAROCK. And if you live in that world, you don't write happy-go-lucky music, right? So most of our songs are like pretty fucked up, right? And the kind of scene that we've always been part of has always been pretty demanding when it comes to challenging the listeners a little bit. But we have a few songs that are kind of straight up pop songs with electronic elements and beats and all of that. But the reality is that so much of DATAROCK's music is so weird, right? And I thought it was really nice to sort of present the material like this is what the material is like without the drum machines,
right?
And the tracksuits and the jumping around and the lighting show and the visuals and blah blah blah, or the 18-year-old kid going crazy, because that might be an intelligent, sensitive person. Perhaps he's not an idiot. He just happens to be 18
and he wants to have fun.
Yeah, right. So, and it was really nice to be able to show that the songwriting of DATAROCK is, I mean, it's not just 4 chords.
Right. It's a lot more intricate than people maybe assume.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating that you're able to kind of bring those songs into the set that you're doing with the new material.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I was so happy because I've been playing this little Steinberg guitar with DATAROCK forever, right? And the neck is so, what is it called, slim?
Yeah,
and it's very thin strings, and it's very easy to chop on it, right? But these new songs is like really you have to do like all these weird
intricate hand movements.
Yeah,
finger positions.
Yeah, and when you sit like this and you play guitar, it's up here, right? But when you play a rock show, you don't want to have your guitar up here because then you look like the bass player of B-42s or something.
Yeah, you want to have it down like a punk rocker.
Yeah, and then it's like you really
like
can't
Joe Strummer or something.
Yeah, you want to be Joe Strummer. So, but you can't do anything there. So then you have to lift it up, and actually the Gibson ES 335 was so damn heavy that my back started to ache and my neck, and so I had to go to the rehearsal space like twice a day and rehearse for half an hour or 1.5 hours, like a couple of times a day, just to get used to playing all that shit, right? And then eventually I was so happy with just hearing the songs, just vocals and guitars. So then when we added the strings, I was like, that takes away a lot of the essence of the songs, because when you do all these elaborate arrangements, you're doing the opposite of what I tried to do with this album, which was to say to myself and to kids that the essence of the song isn't the production. The essence of the song is a basic chord progression and a melody, and the execution, right? Of the and also the execution of whatever lyrical content you have. Like you can sing some words and really put some depth behind it or not, right? But then when we put all of these arrangements in, it was like, oh no, we're doing just like old school heavy production.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. With the concept of the new record it's called Rona Diaries. So was it something that you ever, like, was a solo record ever anything you had planned, or was it just kind of something like, okay, now we're all stuck inside, I've got some material, let's kind of put out something that maybe doesn't sound like up the straight, like, DATAROCK record?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you kind of the logics behind the decision. It was, we first released, well, as you know, we were supposed to do the 15-year anniversary of the debut album last year,
and then you re-released the record, and you had some remix, the Devo remix, and like some of the, and then you've released 2 new songs, right? A couple new songs. Three new songs.
Yeah, but and I mean, we were supposed to do a lot of shows, and like it was the 15-year anniversary was supposed to be set up. Well, it was actually in collaboration with Record Store Day internationally.
Okay. Oh, rad.
So it was. Yeah, so it was a release in collaboration with Record Store Day, and they were supposed. Well, it was the first vinyl release of that album ever.
Oh, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, man, and we even got a writer to write this like super. If you go to datarockmusic.com, you can read an article about that album, which it'll take you 2 hours to read it because it's so fucking in depth. Like, because everybody's so confused. We made that weird album. Like nobody thought anything was going to happen to that album. And then we ended up playing 1,000 shows in 36 countries because of this weird album, right?
So cool.
So for us, it was a big deal to do this anniversary. And then everything just shut down because of COVID-19, right? And then anyway, so we were pumped. We were like ready to go out and tour and celebrate all these years with this album. And then nothing happened, right? So we were like, energized and we really worked to get back to how we performed and wrote that first album. So we're like, okay, we have all this energy and we not know where to use it. So we just decided, okay, so fuck it, let's make some new songs. And then we became really happy with the new songs, and we ended up in this collaboration with Steve Dubb in the UK, who has done many things, but everything you've ever heard from Chemical Brothers.
Okay.
Right? And then we get these super positive reviews from all over the world, and nothing happens. Of course, because everything's shut down, right?
Right.
And then we did it. That was called, I remember, was it TikTok? It was.
Yeah, TikTok was one of the hits.
Yeah, but first it was Digital Life, and then it was TikTok. And again, like really positive reviews, and people loved it, and then nothing happens, right? And then we did Video Store, and again, like very positive reviews, but nothing happened, right? And then it was like, why spend more time on this very costly process of releasing this DATAROCK material when there's nothing that can happen? Because we don't have the marketing budget of a huge pop act, right? So we're so dependent on being able to travel around and meet journalists and meet the fans or music enthusiasts. So nothing happened. I was like, fuck it. Then I can just as well do something where I don't expect much to happen. And then when that happens, your shoulders completely go down, and you can just do something
do something for yourself, almost like
where
you're not as focused on like writing this hit that you can tour around the. I mean, it's almost like
I mean,
not that the record isn't amazing, but instead of being hyper focused on like, okay, we're gonna write this massive hit and then we're gonna tour, we're gonna do 1,000 dates, or you know what I mean? Like you're you're able to kind of just focus on the record and put it out there. I'm guessing.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? It took me straight back to when I was a kid, and that's why you did music. You only wrote music for yourself. You love music, and you want to kind of compete a little bit against the ones that you love, and then you want to try to do something that they perhaps would like to. Mm-hmm. And then I did this album, and for instance, Jerry Casale from Devo, he wrote me. He was like he loved it, and I'm like, but Jerry, you're this aggressive Devo guy. You're not supposed to like this. He was like, he loved it, you know, and then I was happy, you know. But I mean,
that must be validating getting that response from him,
dude,
right?
Yeah. And you're sitting in this little town over here. My hero from Los Angeles writes me, I love it. Thank you. No, but I think it's so easy to forget what it's all about when you. I mean, with DATAROCK, it started off like this is how it started off, right? Mm-hmm. But at some point, we were part of the income of probably 100 people, right?
Right.
Not only the people touring with us,
team, and then you have people that are all, you know, involved with the record and the release and the rollout and everything else, right?
Yeah, and then because it's not a joke anymore. Like bills needs to be paid, food needs to, you know, be bought, and
do you remember that? Yeah, do you remember the moment when, I'm sure you do, when it became like this is the livelihood of everybody now, like this is like, let's quit our jobs, let's focus, this is the you know, the career path that we're gonna ride from here on out?
Yeah, I think, well, it started gradually because we became so huge in Australia, and I know nothing about Australia at the time. It's like it's a huge island on the opposite side of the planet, and people are British. What the hell is this country?
And there's like three or four cities on the coastline that you know that everyone's at, and like there's the rest of the country, which is kind of rural, right?
Yeah. And so I don't. Okay, Kylie Minogue, In Excess, AC/DC, and Midnight Oil. I don't know.
Right.
So like we you know, Australia, it's really on the opposite side of the planet, right? So we didn't really pay much attention to what was going on there. And then we were booked in 2006. We were booked to do a tour, and in Australia they have these touring festivals, kind of like what is it called in the US? The punk tour.
Like Punk and Trouble? I don't know. I'm trying to think of punk tour.
Their Vans was always.
Oh, like Vans Warped Tour.
Yeah, and then the same bands travel around.
Yeah, and then Warped Tour is the big punk one.
Warped Tour, I think that's it I'm talking about. But that's what they do in Australia. A lot of the tours, because it's so far away, when the artists fly into Australia, they set up like not a festival in one town. The same festival will travel to 8 towns.
Gotcha.
Or cities.
Yeah.
And anyways, and we assumed that we'd be positioned where nobody would see us in a small tent next to the toilet. Right?
Right.
That's what we assumed. So, and we were like, okay, what the hell? Let's go there. Like
small
holiday
next to the toilet.
Yeah. And then so we went there with just 3 of us, because we didn't have a drummer back then. And check it out. I had my guitar. We had a bass guitar. We had a Casio MT64, which is pretty much a child's toy from the 80s. And then we had all the backing tracks on a mini disc. That's the equipment we were traveling with.
Whoa.
All hand luggage. We didn't have a tour manager or a sound engineer or lighting engineer, nothing like that. And then we come into to Australia, and then they see we're a band. And so in customs, they stop us, obviously, because we have instruments and stuff. And they asked us, are you a band? And we said, yes. Where are you from? We said, Norway. And the third question was, are you DATAROCK? And then everybody in customs starts singing fa fa fa, like out of a musical or something, right? what the fuck is going on? And then we come out to the festival, and we realize that we're positioned to play main stage before James Brown on an 8-date stadium tour.
Whoa. So you didn't realize the success you guys were having in Australia? Like, I mean, were you having a lot of record sales there with streams? Like, how are people hearing the songs? You don't know?
Oh, yeah. Well, so they have something called Australia's Hottest 100, where Triple J, the national
Triple
radio.
J, yeah, okay.
You know it? Okay. So in 2000 and whatever, they had 630,000 people vote, and we came in number 12.
Wow, okay.
And it doesn't sound insane, but that means pretty much every person in Australia who cares about music ends up hearing you a gazillion times.
Right.
Right. And also the kind of humor and all of that went really well down in Australia. And so we would end up like we did 8 national tours in a matter of years in Australia. Like, we even played Perth several times.
Really?
You know? Yeah. And that was so absurd. So, and I mean, at the time, I mean, the whole point of DATAROCK is that we were severe slackers. Like, we had to start DATAROCK because we didn't really do anything. Like, we were students, terrible students. We were just university students who didn't give a fuck about anything but drink beer. And
of course, like most, right?
yeah. But I think like if you had to like if you had to choose a character from the film Revenge of the Nerds, like who is who, I'd say everybody in DATAROCK is Booger.
Everybody.
No, but and we were like and also I think like if you're that kind of person, you don't want to get your hopes too high, because then you get disappointed, right? So we're just doing this for fun, and something is happening in Australia, better not pay too much attention to it, because it's a bonus if anything good happens, but we don't expect, you know that kind of.
So you don't want to think too much think too much into it, really, right? Because it's like hopefully this thing will work out, but we're not going to bet on it.
No, exactly. But then I'm not saying we made a lot of money, but compared to what we used to make, which was nothing, we made a lot of money, right? And then we were like, that's just the joke money. We were so used to not having any cash, so we were like, let's reinvest it and try for England. So we bought some PRs, because we were releasing on our own label, right? We were self-released and ended up with this pretty mainstream success in Australia. And they're like, that's funny, that's interesting, why the hell? So then we took the money and did some music videos and bought some PR help in the UK. And then the same thing happened there. Like, the first tour we did in England was 22 sold out dates, right? And then we ended up playing like all these huge festivals, and we're like, that's a joke, why the hell is this happening? Let's try for America. and then we did the same in America, and it was really weird, because the kind of sound that we represented is kind of, if you have a punk rock hardcore background, you can hear that some of those elements are in the music. And if you have that background and you like electronic music, chances that you like the same kind of electronic music as we did, right? So the first person in Los Angeles to sort of support us was Steve Aoki.
Really?
Yeah, because Steve Aoki's background is that he used to be the screamo singer of a band called This Machine Kills.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a lot of EDM guys are coming through that like emo hardcore scene. It's interesting.
Yeah, and he once did a split 7-inch with some friends of us from Norway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and when Dimmack started getting some business, they actually signed one of our friends from town called Annie, who was recently voted the best pop album in Billboard in the US. Annie.
Okay.
She actually in front of Taylor Swift and stuff like that.
That's huge.
But anyway, so yeah, but then okay, so Steve Aoki, he also, because we once met Steve Aoki, and because his friends were the guys who ran MySpace back in the days.
Oh, okay. Right? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, no, me neither. But then we're
Tom?
like, okay, are you serious? No, not Tom. Not Tom wasn't there.
The only one I know.
No, he was there. Well, I wish he was. But then, and we met them at this winter music conference festival in Miami, and we had lunch with him and those guys. And I was like, I just have to ask you, why the hell did we end up being the featured artist on MySpace? Which at the time meant that we were, when you open up MySpace, 28 million people a day would.
Oh, you were on the main page? Wow.
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
That's like,
for 2 weeks.
Oh man.
Yeah, and over the next couple of days, we had to like physically 350,000 new friends, and social media wasn't a thing back then. That was the first social media, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, there was a couple ones that no one cared about prior to it, but MySpace really changed the world,
did.
Really.
Yeah, it did, and we were so old that we actually replied politely every single message, like personally.
There's something to be said about that, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think artists take that for granted nowadays. Like, no one.
Yes.
The ones that really make it, you can tell that they put that that effort in to be, like have the gratitude to do that. That's incredible.
Yeah, but it was also so time consuming that by the time Facebook appeared, we were already like completely tired of.
You're still filling out the responses to people on MySpace.
Yeah, it would be like, hi, I'm Scott. I'm 12 years old. I just I was wondering, how did you write this or that song? And then we would actually reply in depth how we would.
That's so cool. Imagine how that 12-year-old kid felt. Like, oh my God, DATAROCK responded to me. Like, wait, what? No, he printed out the email. He probably still has it.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, I hope. No, but we really connected with people. But when I met the MySpace guys, I asked them, like, why did we end up being featured artists on MySpace, which was the biggest thing on the planet right then? And then they started giggling, and they said, he made us.
Giggling.
Like, like giggling. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, Steve Aoki, he just happened to like us. And he told his friends at MySpace, you should feature these guys. And that's how we sort of broke through internationally, because of those 2 weeks on MySpace.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And the whole scene we were part of were all MySpace bands. Right? Because at the time, I don't know if you remember, but like the whole electronic scene was bands from Brazil, Mexico, Australia, Germany, France, Sweden, the UK, even Germany. Like you had this it was called New Rave in Europe. I don't know what it was called in England, in the US, I mean. But all these bands was international internet phenomena, and you had never seen that before, right? So we would end up playing with Justice all over the world. Wow. We would play with someone like CSS from Brazil. They would play everywhere, or Crystal Castles from the US.
Yeah,
and all of these people were like, we were MySpace bands, and the only reason why we ended up being like world famous like that was because Steve Aoki, whom we didn't even know, we had no business affiliation to the guy. He made his friends, just as a friendly gesture for whatever reason, present us to 28 million people a day for 2 weeks.
That's incredible. Do
Insane.
you know how he found out about you guys? Was it the connection through like the 7-inch?
Yeah. And he had signed Annie, our friend, and he had also signed Block Party. And we were
I didn't know that. He signed Block Party? Wow.
Well, at least for a single or so. I don't know. But then he also signed those guys that he did the split 7-inch with, which they were called J.R. Ewing, like the character from the Dallas series.
Okay.
And they lived at my apartment when they recorded that album. So we were pretty close. And then, yeah, that's a brilliant album, by the way. It's called Maelstrom. But no, so it was also random. And then, suddenly you're not staying for guys in a random person's living room when you play a show. Suddenly you have like single rooms. You have a tour manager, you have assistants, like. And
it's wild. It's wild to think that somebody can make or break a career like that. Like to think that Steve Aoki just was like, you know, you should put DATAROCK on the main page, and then it's like so many eyes on you, and then it just obviously, but it obviously has to resonate with people, because if he picked a band that no one cared about, like if the song wasn't good, right, they would have just been like, oh, this band's just taking up space on the website for 2 weeks.
No, you're right. But it was like that really kickstarted that did what is it called, domino effect.
Yeah.
So because of that, we started appearing in all of these. I mean, we never had like a big marketing budget or anything like that. Like our entire success in Australia is because one person sent one CD to one radio channel, and Triple J ended up playing that album a gazillion times.
Who do you remember who like had it in their hands? Like, was it a particular DJ on their station? I come from radio, so like that always fascinates me.
Yeah, it was the Doctor.
Oh, really? And he just like liked the record, and
because he because the Duck had a show with one of his bandmates from whatever their punk band was called, and I think he loved it. So we ended up like doing interviews with him and stuff. And he ended up on stage with us in Sydney once. Yeah, I mean, he's still around. He's not in Triple J anymore, but he was a pretty prominent voice in Australian music industry, I guess. So I think he was the one who sort of picked it up. But then it was just something about that sound that connected with so many in Australia that I think like all the radio channels, I mean, all the different shows would play us, like various songs. Like someone would play Funny Haha Computer Camp Love, but then someone else would play one of the more like punk songs. And so but I have to also admit that I think the video games that we said yes to had a lot of influence on our career, because for instance, we know that the 20 or so video games that we're in part of, I mean, they're so huge. It's incredible.
Like FIFA, it's insane. If you get on FIFA, it's like so next level. Like next level. It's crazy.
Like it's like every person on the planet plays FIFA. I don't get it. It's insane.
I know. It's so
and we're
weird.
in 4 FIFA. We're in 4 FIFA games.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Even additionally, Electronic Arts has a European football game called the UC. I don't know. I don't remember the abbreviation, but anyway, it's a football game for Europe.
Okay.
Like a Champions League or whatever.
Yeah.
Football game, and we were in 2 different sims: Need for Speed, Madden NFL, NHL, and all sorts. Insane.
Every huge like sport game, like any of those games, right? They're like, that's what people wait around for. Like, oh, the new, FIFA.
Yeah.
2022 is coming out, even if they have 2021 and 20 and they have all of them prior. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, once we were supposed to be on the soundtrack of GTA whatever number.
Oh, really? The new, probably the one that's been around for 8 years that my 13-year-old still plays.
It was a long time ago, and damn it, those guys, something about it was some glitch in the program, I don't know, it was postponed by a couple of months, and by the time it was released, someone else had become DATAROCK. So oh no, we would this close the GTA too.
Oh my gosh, I gotta tell my kid. He's gonna freak out. Well, but he knows you guys because of FIFA, and his friends know you because of FIFA. I'm talking like 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
Really?
Know your song because of the FIFA game. Yeah. Is that incredible?
Damn. That is incredible. But I mean, fast forward to 2021. The new FIFA and all of that stuff is TikTok.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like the person I was talking about earlier called Aurora, the one with the voice in Frozen. She had a 5 or 6 year old song being picked up by whatever TikTok personality, and because of that one person, or perhaps it was more than one, but anyways, because of TikTok, her 5 or 6 year old song went up to like top 3 played song in so many countries around the planet, because of probably a 15-year-old TikToker,
right, doing a little dance move to a clip of the song, 30 seconds of the song, and it's just life-changing.
Isn't it amazing? And I mean, it is amazing that a kid can have that kind of influence, but it's also kind of sad because we're I mean, just before this call, I received this insane review from Australia by this writer called Bernard Zuel with a Z, Bernard Zuel.
Okay.
And the guy, the way he writes his reviews is just so in-depth, knowledgeable, elaborate, and he can really pinpoint references going back like 40 years. His kind of music journalism is what Pitchfork used to be like.
Oh yeah, I mean that was another like tastemaker publication, right?
Yeah, and they helped us a lot because they gave us some great reviews. No, but the kind of writing that me and you remember from music publications. It was they had their own lingo, kind of. It's very like beautiful writing, very analytical and knowledgeable, and you had to get through that kind of filter to get anywhere, right? And we're so stuck in that thought frame. Like, I don't want to collaborate with some kid who can make a hit song with three chords and a killer beat. I bet I could. I probably should. I just can't do it because I'm so sort of. Well, when I was a kid, I read NME, New Musical Express.
Oh yeah, huge.
Religiously, right? We would read like Q Magazine, Melody Maker, Rolling Stone Magazine.
Kerrang, maybe.
Yeah, Kerrang, all of that, Metal Hammer, all that, and we would. That was our world. Our world wasn't. This person had a success because of a 13-year-old kid who did a dance to their riff.
Right.
Well,
it's like interesting. Go ahead.
It's no. I'm just saying it's just so alien to me. It's a different way of thinking.
I had this conversation. I was gonna say I had this conversation with somebody recently, actually a couple times on this podcast about the idea of like selling out, like right, like that was like the worst thing to do in the early 2000s or late 90s. It was like Green Day sold out. They signed this big record contract, and their sound is going to change now. But now it's like every kid on the planet want to have the viral success. Like that's what everyone's striving for. Like I want to have that one video that's going to go viral. It's not like this. This TikToker isn't cool anymore because now they have viral success. It's like that's what they want.
That is what they want.
You know what I mean? It's not that like people don't really have that. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like people don't really have that sense of,
I know,
like that's mine, and I don't want anyone else to have it anymore.
When we were kids, it was like if you really liked the band, and then a lot of other kids started liking the same band, then you stopped liking that.
Right,
band.
That's what I mean. Like they're not cool anymore. Like, oh, now you're mainstream. Like, oh, I can't like you anymore. Like that's not mine anymore. You've given it away to everybody else. But there's not really
Metallica's Black Album.
Sure, that's a huge
Nirvana's
example.
Nevermind.
Yeah,
well, kind of.
But Black Album's a great example. Like people that were, huge fans of the early thrash Metallica, like Master of Puppets, and then they put out a record like the Black Album, and it's, I mean, it's still one of the greatest records of all time. But like people that were new Metallica for that sound were kind of like, well, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. But it was also a problem that the kids that didn't care too much about music suddenly had like a goddamn Metallica t-shirt, right?
Target's selling Metallica t-shirts.
Right? Yeah. Oh no. Oh shit. Yeah. No, and then at the same time, like there's a Norwegian metal band called Kvelertak. I don't know how to say it in English, but they did a 36 date stadium tour with Metallica, and I talked to them and I said, okay, how can you afford it? Because usually when a band supports someone like Metallica on a tour like that, you have to actually take part in paying the expenses of security and production, right?
Is that right? I didn't know that.
No, you buy yourself into a tour like that because the marketing value of being on a tour like that is
like life-changing,
ridiculous.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of expected to, pay
your fair share.
Yeah.
Even if like Metallica is making 10 million times what you are.
That's how it's supposed to work, right? But not with Metallica.
Okay.
So what they told me, it was really interesting. They said Lars Ulrich is such a music nerd. He's still a complete music nerd. So he'll go out and find some really interesting band, and he'll say, I understand you couldn't afford that, but we don't want Def Leppard supporting us. We want someone new and exciting to support us. So we'll pay you a completely normal fee per show, and you don't pay shit.
That's incredible to hear. I didn't know that. And Lars Ulrich gets a bad rep, right? I mean, just because of the Napster thing, like in all reality, what, he didn't want people stealing his songs? I mean, come on.
What's wrong with that? I mean, the one person on the planet who probably really didn't need that money, he went out and he sort of took that debate for everyone.
For everybody, yeah. It wasn't about him and his money in his pocketbook. It was about all the other bands that were now not selling any records because I could share my Green Day album with you, or I guess that's a bad example, but I could share some like smaller band that I have the CD and I'm going to upload it onto my drive and you can take it instead of buying it for $12.
So he took the hit for everyone, and he was absolutely right. And what happened, because he was so shut down, is that right now all the streaming services they've written such a poor agreement with all the record companies that it's almost impossible for an artist to make any money off streaming, right? Because open source, free sharing, blah blah.
Yeah,
it's like he was the only one who tried to prevent the current situation, because he did it for all of us, kind of. But he came off as a fucking douchebag. Right. He was the only person who probably didn't give a fuck, because he had all the money on the world, right?
Yeah, it didn't matter, right?
Yeah,
and then he knew he was still going to sell a bunch of records anyway. Everyone could hate him. He was still like the hated guy, but everyone loved Metallica. Like, oh, Lars sucks, but I'm still going to go spend $150 on a Metallica ticket.
Yeah.
It didn't matter anymore.
So it's really interesting. Like a person that, for instance, after the Black Album and all that, and he became kind of exotic after he developed some habits, I'd say. but
he broke his nose.
He broke his nose a little, many times. But he was still, an amazing person who really followed the scene. And if you look at their tours over all these years, so many times he brought along a band that nobody knew, and he made them famous. And a lot of those bands, no, it's true. He actually took another Norwegian metal band on a stadium tour recently. So the guy he's not a sellout. He uses his position to help market real underground music, and he follows underground music. He's very knowledgeable about up and coming metal bands, and he really made a career for our friends. I mean, imagine 36 stadium tours. We actually flew to Paris to see them support Metallica in an 80,000 stadium show. Last time we saw them was like a 300 capacity punk show.
Right, little club.
Like, so I mean, Metallica was, I mean, they've always been real, right? Mm-hmm. But because a lot of people like them, we're like, I don't care about them anymore.
Right, that's it. That was like people got shunned. It's like, oh, well, they put out the sellout record, or Lars doesn't want us to share music. Like, what is this? And then nowadays, like all the artists are like fighting to overturn that.
Yeah, and I mean, when COVID hit and people realized that you can't even make an income on live shows, that's when reality hit the industry, kind of. So there's one of my favorite bands growing up from the UK was called The Charlatans, and their singer Tim Burgess, he was the head of what's called the Songwriter Guild in the UK, and they started this debate, like, there is no income. There is no income if you're an alternative artist and you release worldwide on streaming services. It's very close to no income, and that is a problem, because there is a huge revenue around the streaming services and music. And I mean, everybody's paying for broadband, or everybody's paying for 4G or 5G or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of money in this system, but very little or nothing goes to the intellectual property owners, which is kind of absurd. And then in England, they even did a forecast, like a super serious scientific forecast of what's going to happen when this is the scenario of the music industry. And they kind of anticipated that within 25 years, this huge economy around music will collapse.
Oh, because wow, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, because, I mean, it'll go into what knitting is. It's something you do for fun, you know.
Mm-hmm. Just because there's no money in because no one's buying records, right? Unless you put out something like you said, like the DATAROCK on a physical vinyl, like it's never been done. People want, like, I think physical stuff, like a record is big now because it's something that's cool. It's big. Yeah. It's not just like a disc that you could burn and then give it to your friend. Like there's something to be said about having a record, right? And like, but how many people buy that record and then put it on the record player and play it through all the time? It's like they're just going to throw it on Spotify and listen to it there, right?
yeah. Well, they are. No, but I mean, I'm 44, so I mean, I'm an adult, and I remember how things used to be. And our friends who were in bands, they would play shows around Europe, and they had some kind of career, but they were bartenders at home. Mm-hmm. Or they would, guards in the door or whatever, had some whatever job, right?
Side jobs.
And it was okay to make very little money because we were so many who made close to nothing. So we were a cool scene. Like people wanted to hang out with us. We hung out at all the cool bars and nightclubs and all of that. Yet we had no money. Mm-hmm. There were so many of us, right? And it kind of worked. Like, oh yeah, we have a gig, and I just made, I don't know, $50 or whatever, right?
Right.
And it worked. But right now it's like, it's almost impossible to make those $50 or those 2,000 or I mean $200 or whatever. So now it's like, it's really like we used to be part of a scene where, I mean, no matter how goddamn broke you were, there was always a pub where you could afford a couple of beers, right? Mm-hmm. But now, I mean, unless you have a hell of a lot of streams, you won't even make up enough for a beer.
Right. Yeah, because you're making like a fraction of a penny off a stream, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now you can't even write, well, for a year and a half, you haven't even been able to go out and play shows, right? And I'm okay because I actually have a side job. So I'm okay. But that means that music has to be a hobby. Do you say hobby?
Yeah,
you still
hobby,
use the word
right?
Hobby. Yeah. So it has to be a hobby, right? And which is, perhaps it's okay. I don't know. Perhaps it's okay. I mean, in Norway, you have a lot of traditional musicians who do the fiddling and like non-commercial at all music, and you have a scene for that. And all these people I'm assuming they have a regular job, and then they do.
Do that as a traditional still a hobby, right? Or just a little extra income.
Yeah, and but by the time that happens, that is a collapse of an industry, kind of. Mm-hmm. Like they did a survey in Bergen. This is a town of 350,000 people, and they have like one big rock festival, which goes with something like 4 days. And even in this little town, if you put together hotels, restaurant visits, bars, merchandise, and whatever people buy in town when they're in the city to see, Foo Fighters or whatever, that was, I have to do the math. Let me think. It would be something like $300 million.
Wow.
Was that if you put everything together, like
for that one show, like those
no for 4-day festival, because people, they fly in with airplane.
Oh, they fly in. Yeah, they're staying in the hotel for 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah, exactly. And then they eat
drink
in restaurants and
buy a huge industry, right? It's a big thing. It's like how much the revenue the city will make off of the one festival that's coming to town.
Yeah, and then but that's like what everybody collectively makes, right?
Right.
Like including parking your car and filling gasoline on the car or whatever. And perhaps within a couple of decades, perhaps this doesn't work anymore, because it doesn't make any sense to spend too much time focusing on this music, because it's screw making a lot of money. Like nobody needs a lot of money, but you need a basic living, right?
Right.
It's a basic living. And that's very, very close to impossible to generate with today's situation. And the only one who really went to the forefront of that fight was that guy who was so shut down that is still regarded as kind of an imbecile, which is terrible. I mean, Lars Ulrich.
Right. Yeah, because he's the one that was trying to fight for that. And then everyone hated him because they weren't getting their, free.
Yeah, I feel really sorry
CD.
for the guy.
And then now he's probably sitting back thinking, I told you guys. I told you.
He did, man.
Yeah.
He did. Well, I remember I once, because we always considered like really dumb titles for our albums, and one of my suggestions for title for the first album was "Free CD Inside."
I like that. That's pretty good.
No, but it's really been interesting since when we started in releasing music, we released on the same label as Kings of Convenience and Röyksopp and all these guys. And the way the label worked was that it was a guy who ran this tiny little record store who just put up a label, and he didn't have any money. So every time he did a release, it would be a print up of 500 physical vinyl prints. That's it. And then he was so indie that he didn't have a distribution company helping him. So he would sell individually to record stores around the world. Yet 10% would end up in Los Angeles, 10% would end up in Berlin, 10% would end up in Tokyo, London, Paris, and so on. And based on, and you wouldn't hear them on the radio. There was nothing online to support a release. Perhaps some blogs would write a review. Perhaps you had some forums, I don't know, but you didn't have streaming, right? So based on 500 copies, that's it, 500 copies. All these artists, including us, started building a fan base around the world. So based on a limited print up of 500 physical copies, you could only hear us if you had access to one of those 500 copies. Yet we ended up playing in Japan and all over Europe within a couple of years. That's real.
Oh yeah. And how that is real. 500 worldwide. Think about that. I mean,
it's insane.
Yeah.
And then half of the people who would show up to your concert hadn't had the opportunity to listen to your music. Perhaps they read a review in some fanzine or something. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't even like they probably didn't have the album, obviously.
No.
Maybe a friend of a friend had it and they got to hear it twice. And then they're like, oh, well, they're coming to town. Let's go check them out.
Yeah. Yet it feels like that time and day was easier than today, because now the competition is fierce. It's almost impossible to get any attention for anything, right? And the ones who has the muscle and the apparatus and finances to actually promote something even semi-real, they're of course overshadowing so many other releases, right? So it's like it's interesting, heartbreaking, I guess, especially for young people. I mean, we've toured the world so many times, so we've lived this amazing life as touring artists. But imagine how hard it is for a 20-year-old group of guys to break through in any way whatsoever.
They're hoping for that TikTok success, right? I mean, for you to say, going back for what you originally told me right when we started, was like what, like 40,000 songs come out like a day or something you were saying?
Someone said.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you cut through that?
How do you? And then it feels like today, like half of the job is to know like the ins and outs of algorithms. Right. And how you set up a release, like you should set it up like it should be done and ready to go half a year before the release, so you can start going to meetings with these streaming services and get into like New Music Friday and get some help to get into the playlists and la. And it's like, but you don't even care about music. Like you really don't. You know,
right.
It's someone said it's easier to work with the algorithms if you release a recording of Rain than any kind of genre. Because if you have a specific kind of BPM or beat pattern, then you will be limited. And then eventually you're so narrow that you don't fit into any algorithm. Whereas if it's nothing there, it's easy to get into the algorithm. That's really hilarious.
That is. So, yeah, it's like, it's because the streaming services own it, right? I mean, if you get on New Music Friday, that's your streaming numbers are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, I know. And even though I'm sitting here criticizing this, I also have to admit that I try to work with it because there's no alternative.
Right. You have to work with it. And also, it's going to say, it's like totally going back to the cycle of, you're saying you got to set up the release 6 months in advance. You got to go talk to these, streaming services, whoever, the algorithm people, gatekeepers. It's also different, not within the last year and a half, because it's like, if you weren't getting on the playlist and you weren't getting the radio love or whatever, at least you could go out and push your record in front of people like you guys were doing originally, right? Responding to every message on MySpace or getting in front of people all the time. But it's like now that was all ripped out. You were pulled out from under you. And now you're sitting on your hands, and maybe you're a new artist that we're ready to finally get on a support tour or something like that. And then now what? You got to wait around for another year?
Man. I know. And for instance, there's a Norwegian band called Motorpsycho, and they've been like a cult indie band in Europe for 20 years or so. And at least once a year, they tour all of Europe, and everywhere they go, it's sold out. But because they're so experienced, the dimensions are always correct, right? So it'll sell out everywhere because the dimensions are great. Like in this town, they will only pull 200. In this town, they pull 600 or whatever, right? And they lived off their music for not 20, 30 years or so. And they're super well known in that genre all over Europe. But if you look at their streaming, none of them is above 300,000, right? So, but they've been living off this band for 35 years, perhaps, because they've been able to tour Europe once or twice a year. And they don't make a gazillion, obviously. They don't make a lot of money, but it supports their way of life.
They're living life, right? They're not working another job. They're just doing that.
And they pay for the kindergarten for the kids, and no problem with school and buying a bicycle, new computer, whatever.
Right.
But with the COVID-19, I just wonder what happens to a scene when 100% of at least alternative musicians have had close to zero income. What the hell happens after 1.5 years? That's really like if an area had no rain for 1.5 years. I mean, you move out of there,
right?
You
have to find something else to do, right? I mean, how do you support your family at this point? And then there really wasn't a lot of support for artists either. I mean, you weren't you weren't able to get the unemployment check that everyone else could get if they lost.
Exactly. Like I heard this really interesting New York Times podcast, The Daily, where they follow a bartender, and he ends up getting $1,000 a week when COVID shut down the US. $1,000 a week. That's okay.
Yeah, why not go? Why would you want to go back to work at that point? That's a problem that's happening right now.
Exactly. But how many musicians do you reckon got $1,000 a week?
Close to none.
Yeah. So it's like it's really interesting. So what I'm afraid of is that what you're left with is like perhaps the least creatively interesting artists and the most commercially adaptable artists after something like this.
I'm interesting. I wonder if you there's very few countries in this world that really embrace the music and the artists and will help support them financially. And I wonder why that is. Like Canada is a great example of a country, or New Zealand, that will straight up fund a record for people. If they can prove like they really want to do this and succeed, that they'll give them money, like a scholarship, right? And they'll help pay for an album. But I wonder, like here in the States, if it's just looked at as a hobby. Like, oh, well, you're not really you're not really working. I understand that you like, it's almost like they're saying that you're not really working, because they're not saying like, well, now you don't have your job. You can still sit at home and play guitar, can't you? It's like, well, yeah, but I can't make any money like I could before. It's like no one was getting that respect, I don't think. Here, at least here in the States.
No, I hear you. I have to say that I think also Ireland has the same kind of setup, and Norway.
Norway does. Okay.
Norway does, yeah. So, but I'll tell you, like the first time we were invited to the US, like our first show in the US was actually a knitting factory in New York City. That's interesting, huh?
That's huge.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. We added on Empty Bottle in Chicago on the way.
Okay.
And that's how we were actually picked up by Tom Windish, who ended up like becoming like the #1 alternative booking agent in the US. He had like Lord and all that.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. So he was actually, this is a funny story. When we met the guy, he only booked like techno artists and very like underground electronic artists. And then he ended up having Justice and all this stuff, including us. And then when he got married, he actually got Jared Leto to
really 30 seconds
become
to
a
Mars.
to become a minister, so he could
so he can marry him.
Yeah,
that's so funny. I just did that, dude. It's so hilarious. So I did that to marry my brother-in-law recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's this thing called the Universal Life Church, and my brother-in-law calls me. He's like, dude, like we're doing a very small wedding, and we're gonna do it in Big Bear, and it's only gonna be, you know, our family. And would you be the minister? And I was like, sure, let me figure out how to do it. If you're 18 and have an email address, you're in.
Nice. I love
That's all you need.
I love it. Wow. That's probably what Jared Leto did too.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like that very first. Well, okay. So on the way, we also stopped in Toronto and did a show with the Wolf Parade or something like that. I don't remember. But anyway, so let me tell you a little story. So we were invited to play these shows in the US, and back then flying was really, really expensive. So going to the US to do a show that basically didn't pay anything, it was like we couldn't, because we were just students, right? So then I contacted the department in town who gives out these kind of scholarships to music, and they said, oh, but that budget is empty. And then I asked them, what do you mean that budget is empty? Well, that music business money is empty. And I'm like, okay, so but you're saying there is a lot of money laying around that could be available if we were something else than a band. So why don't you just regard us as an export article commercial entity and support us as increasing our international competence or something like that? And then they were like, well, shit, we never thought about that. Sure. And then they got us $2,000.
Wow. So you just went around, you did a loophole, right? I mean, you just came up as we're not a band, we're this.
Yeah. And I have to tell this story because what that little support, it's not little, I realized that, but it was very expensive traveling to the US, right? So it basically helped cover the cost. And I think we got something like $10 for the show. I don't know, like really close to nothing, right? And but the truth of the matter is, because of this trip, we ended up working with Steve Aoki and Tom Windish and the Windish Agency. We ended up doing 22 tours in the US alone. But because of the US success, we also ended up playing all over Latin America numerous times and touring 36 countries. So because we got a little bit of money in the beginning, we ended up taxing our exported intellectual properties back home in Norway, right? So it was an investment in future revenue. You don't give that scholarship just for fun. You give it just like you give fucking I don't know, a weapon company. I don't know. Like,
right.
Like you like you support all kinds of industries, and it makes sense because there is real revenue in music, and on top of that, everybody knows that it's such an important part of our culture, and that's not just a term. That's our mental, emotional health. That's our social life, and that's how we connect with other people. And so it should be regarded as not only a business in the same way as any other business. They should also give it extra credit because we are important in the well-being of mankind. Kind of.
It should be an essential business, right?
Yeah,
and they're giving that to strip clubs. Strip clubs were essential businesses here in the United States. Really? And they were allowed to stay open.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Essential
business. So there was a very few things that could stay open during COVID.
But strip joints.
They were an essential business. Isn't that bizarre?
That is, you need to write an article because people don't know that. That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it was the same thing in Norway. One of the essential businesses was like the massage parlors where you can get a massage.
Yeah, of course, right? It's like what's fascinating is like the gatekeepers that are deciding this. It's like where were their heads at? They're like, oh, we got to make sure that the strip clubs and massage parlors are open because then my weekend's screwed.
Oh no, that's terrible. Same thing in Norway with the massage places. Yeah, and I didn't differentiate between like a professional massage institute
like a masseuse,
like chiropractors and all that. It was like, I'm sure it was happy endings involved. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Hey, give me a second. I'm just gonna pick up something to drink.
Oh, go ahead.
Let me see. Oh, it looks like a beer, but it isn't a beer. It's a fermented botanical tonic, and it comes with coffee. And what else is it in this? It doesn't say in English everything, but it's a bizarre taste.
It's like a sparkling water with some coffee in it, or
well, yeah, or the taste of coffee and some herbs. It's particularly weird, but it'll help me get through the day.
I like it. What time you said you're in Norway? What time is it there? I'm just curious.
Oh no, it's not bad at all. It's 4:30
in the afternoon.
Yeah. What about you? Like, what time of day is it?
I'm in Nashville. I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up, born and raised in San Diego. My family and I, during this virus, we moved to Tennessee. I'm in Nashville now.
Ah, nice. Okay, I'll tell you something. Ever since Coachella, we've been sponsored by Gibson, and we came into Gibson's. What is it called? What is it called?
Their factory or something?
No, the showroom in Los Angeles. And all the guitars they had there was like so weird, like weird custom versions of all the standard guitars. And I was like, I don't know if I can play any of that stuff. But what is that doing there? And they had these weird ass Steinberger guitars, which is like headless guitar with like
where that looks like they're wrapped. The strings are kind of like wrapped around the neck.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, what the hell is that doing there? I love those guitars. And they said, you really love that guitar? Then we ended up being sponsored by Gibson via Steinberger because nobody cared about the brand. And then we realized that Steinberger, which was it became famous the bass came in 1978 and the guitar came in 1982, and the one who made it famous was Johnny Winter. And these weird guitars, last seen in music videos by In Excess. Like you never see these guitars anymore. But David Gilmour toured with them. Even Kiss toured with them. It used to be a big deal, but it's kind of faded away, I guess. But it's so the weird DATAROCK guitars that look like they're just some prop that we got made for us.
Right.
Is actually a handmade guitar in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah. So Steinberger is like it's real craftsmanship. And even though they look like futuristic and like very mass produced, it's like superb craftsmanship from Nashville. So I've done 1,000 shows with a handmade guitar from Nashville.
Wow. Did you get to come out here and like watch them create the guitar for you?
No, damn, I didn't. I have played in Nashville a couple of times, but no, never. I wish I would. I want to. I'll do it.
You should come back to Nashville soon because I want to hang with you. You're such a fun individual. This has been great. I appreciate you.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah. Like we even took one of those like really touristy trips with a horse and carriage.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, we went to a bar. Someone was playing country music, and we thought our drummer would be so confused from the setting that he wouldn't discover that we poured whiskey in his soda because he doesn't drink.
Oh,
he did discover it. No, but Nashville, yeah, we played with the Ladytron in Nashville.
Oh, really? I love Ladytron. That's cool.
We came. It's quite a few years ago, but it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Well,
Nashville is nice.
Hopefully come back. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, do you have I'd love to.
Yeah, do you have any plans to tour? Like, stuff's opening up now, right? I mean, a little bit here in the States.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna
so
are you gonna do a 16th year anniversary tour?
No, but I'll tell you what we're gonna do because I think it was very helpful for me to get sort of this solo material out of the system, because I mean, I didn't write those songs last year. I was just lying. Just some of them were written last year. I made them over many years, right? So because if you're a guitarist, you constantly make riffs and
you're always
and like small sketches and, like sketches and stuff. So what I did was, I mean, some of the material is brand new, but some of the elements I came up with those things like in 2002 and stuff, right? So some of it is like just small little things, elements that I came up with a long time ago, and then I haven't recorded any of it. It was just from remembering. So like, and then I built those ideas out to songs. So none of them are done before. But I remembered all of these interesting things that I sort of came up with over, I guess, almost 20 years. And I'll tell you something, like when DATAROCK kind of broke through, the first time we were played on BBC Radio 1 was when John Peel played my solo stuff.
Really?
So so I released 2 solo singles in 2000, and I don't remember, 2 or 3. And I even met John Peel. And for the ones who don't know who he is, he's the godfather of alternative radio. And he was the career maker of everything from U2 and The Cure and The Fall to, modern day alternative music. So John Peel
he's a
is
legend.
The god.
Yeah, he's a legend. Right.
Yeah. And I met him once and I actually didn't recognize him. So but we just chatted along, and he was very polite, and he said he loved my music and he played it on his show and blah blah blah. And then I thought it was kind of a little bit embarrassing to be a solo artist, because music is you're supposed to be a gang or a group, right?
A unit. Yeah.
And like, it was really interesting. I heard an interview once with one of the guys from Kings of Comedians, who had done a solo album which was well received, and he said it's so much nicer to even deal with defeat as a group than it is to celebrate the victory alone.
That's a beautiful quote. Yeah,
I know. And the guy, I was surprised when he came up with that quote, but yeah, he winged that in an interview, and I was like, God damn, well said, Arlan.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of music is all about, I guess, right? It is supposed to be a collaborative thing and connect people and all of that
camaraderie there with
camaraderie. Yeah. And
would you say, like, does that stand true to you? Like, would you feel like if you have a huge victory with the solo record, that it's kind of like a party of one, like, yeah, I did awesome? Or is it like, is it more of like with DATAROCK, like, yeah, we all, it's kind of like,
no, I mean, even on my solo, I play everything, but someone else helped me make it, right? And like, for instance, the artwork is, do you remember the Oscars this year? There was a very colorful illustration of the Oscar statue.
I don't remember, to be honest. I didn't really watch it.
Who did? Who did? But the illustrator who did the entire Oscars 2021, he's a friend of mine, and he made the artwork for the album.
Oh, right? Cool.
So for him to, if I had some success with this album, it would be nicer for him to have spent so much time doing artwork for 3 singles and an album, right?
Right.
So for me, even a solo release isn't on your own, but being able to travel with your friends, and I mean, with DATAROCK, we've basically been we're all just super close friends. We're like, there's no professional person who came into the equation just because he was a high quality musician.
Yeah.
We're just friends, right? So So I sort of like, and I also did an EP called Chamonix et Paris, where I sing in pretend French because I don't know how to speak French, but I didn't have much on my heart to say, so I just pretend that I'm saying shit in French.
Why was that? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, the songs are really weird, and I don't think you should say anything serious in those songs because it's so super weird.
Okay.
But well, yeah, you can. I can send you a link. You can check it out. It's pretty funny. I sang one of the songs on the concert in Greek Hall for the release concert. I also sang my original solo releases, whom a lot of them ended up on DATAROCK recordings. So, for instance, I Will Always Remember You, which was put in the international version of DATAROCK's debut album, was a solo single played by John Peel and great reviews and music publications around the world. Same thing with Gungor Girl. A lot of the songs on the Red album was recorded as a solo EP, and I had to push it in there because we had to make the Red album in between something like 150 shows that year, right? Yeah. In 28 countries, by the way. So I had to put in songs that I had actually recorded for a solo EP. But anyway, so because of DATAROCK, because that became such a active band, I just stopped doing solo stuff, and then. But then I think it's a problem when you try to fit too much into one concept, right? So we try to push a little bit of that stuff into DATAROCK, and then perhaps DATAROCK became something I wasn't supposed to be. I don't know. But now that I was able to do something this solo material, I think it'll be easier for us to move forward as a band, where I don't have to say like, but I have this great idea. I want to do this. Shut the fuck up, fuck off. I'm going to do everything alone in the studio, which has happened many times. So I'll tell you something funny. Like one of the most played songs on at least radio over here, on the last releases was a song called Catcher in the Rye. And as a band went in the studio, and I was like, I wrote the song, so shut the fuck up. But everybody was like, oh no, let's do it this way. We should do it this way. And I was like, fuck it. Then without talking to the rest of them, I went into a different studio, and I did a completely alternative version of the song, and I was so happy with it. I was like, check it out, this is my new version, and luckily they liked it more than the others. So I just recorded everything.
That's funny. Like, yeah, so I did this.
yeah. No, and it ended up, being a much played song. So that luckily, but anyway, so now I'll tell you what's gonna happen because I mean we're adults, right? Someone gets married, they get a kid, they can't tour anymore. One of the guys had to take a break because he wrote the PhD. Right?
Wow.
One of them had to take a break because it became a very profiled TV personality in Norway. And like everybody has some, yeah. So, but we're such a kind of large group of affiliated members that that's never been a problem. That you want to take a break, that's okay. Then someone else can step in and they can travel with us. And you want to take a break. So anyway, so I'm the only one who has done all the shows.
Well, right? That'd be kind of bizarre not to see DATAROCK without you singing the songs, right?
Yeah, well, once we played Summer Sonic in Tokyo, and the exact date of the show was the due date of her second daughter.
Okay.
So we actually set it up so they could pretend they sang my voice. But then the kid was born a week before, so I could fly in and be part of the show. But they were supposed to be there without me.
Did you guys do a mock show, like in a studio? Like, how would you even pull that off?
Yeah, we recorded my kind of live vocals, so it sounded like I was live on stage. And then one of the other guys was just going to stand in front of the microphone pretending that it was his voice.
Did you do like banter in between the songs?
Yeah.
He's got to go like,
yeah, how you doing? Yeah. And then because we were in that mentality, when we came to Summer Sonic, I actually got the guy who took care of us to shout things in Japanese when I had a microphone, pretending it was me shouting it in Japanese. No, but so what happens next year? What happens now? Because I kind of got all these musical ideas kind of out of the system. I told everybody, why don't we do everybody on stage, like everybody? So not everybody, but all the ones who have done like, you know, at least 200 shows.
Mm-hmm.
So next year,
at least 200. That's the cutoff. You got to play with us 200 times.
No, but I mean, I'm not joking. It's been 1,000 shows in 36 countries, right? So most of them have played like 500 or more.
Right.
Or around 500. But so next year, I found the term for double vision. When you're drunk and you see double.
Yeah.
That's called diplopia. So we should recruit Diplo. He should be part of it. Diplopia. But it means double vision. So next year we started booking DATAROCK's double vision tour, and we'll be twice as many people on stage.
That's cool.
There'll be two drummers, 2 bass players, 2 keyboard players, but one of the keyboard players plays saxophone and a lot of percussion, and then I'll play the guitar and sing. So we'll be 7 people on stage. So that's what we're doing now. So what we're doing now is we're writing songs that will work as 7 people.
That is cool. And then are you going to do the 15-year tour too? Or are you going to play that record at all? Or
yeah,
or
but
I mean, pieces of it, but you're not going to do, it's not going to be like, we're going to do this full album and celebration of it. But that's a cool, left, man. Yeah, but that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool to bring everybody together like that.
Yeah, like if you check out DATAROCK's Instagram, which I guess is DATAROCK_official, then you see like last week, like everybody got together. It was really funny because some of us haven't seen each other in a while, and it took like a split second to become the same group that was, you know, touring 250 days a year. We used to tour 250 days a year for at least 5 years.
That's incredible. That's like beyond me. Like,
and the worst part of it is it didn't feel stressful or weird or anything. It felt like this is how our life is supposed to be. Right now, I can't really understand myself, but at the time, that was our life, you know.
Wow.
Insane.
So you guys
I don't think that. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, so you guys you're putting this thing together now. Is it gonna be like a worldwide thing, or where are you gonna focus?
We hope so, but I think it'll be very hard to. I think everybody wants to get out on the road, like everybody. Not only young new bands, but all the old bands, right? Everybody needs to go out on the road, right? So we're kind of we're excited to see what we can get. We only have a couple of festivals booked already, but my dream
like everyone's that was supposed to play in 2020 are now booking out 2022 almost, right? So there's no space.
No, but luckily we have a couple of bookings already. But I have to say, like, my favorite countries to tour was because the US is special because we know. I mean, I've only been to Nashville a couple of times as a musician tourist, but I've known about Nashville since I was a child, right?
Right.
You've known about so many parts of the US since you were a child, and you know so much about all the states and all the cities and all of that. But for me to come to some random city in Switzerland, like, it's fun, but I don't know why I'm here, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and we're very US centric, so we really want to go back to the US.
Okay.
We always had a lot of fun in Mexico and Brazil and Argentina, and obviously Australia, because we always used to do all these huge festivals. So that would be a lot of fun to be able to revisit that. Definitely Japan, because it's just the most exotic part of the planet, because it's so similar to what you're used to, yet so different, right? And then, I have to say, the one festival that we never played, I'm like, God damn it, we never played it. That's Glastonbury, and it really bugs me. And it bugs me.
You feel like you'd be a good fit for that festival.
I don't know why we never played. Like, everybody plays Glastonbury. Why the hell did we never play Glastonbury? And that's like, it's one of those things that I need to be able to cross off the list before I die, you know?
It's a bucket list.
yeah. It's that, and it's also Primavera in Barcelona. I'd love to play that. Also Fuji Rock in Japan. I'd love to do that. And I mean, we played Lollapalooza, but that was in Santiago, Chile.
Oh, you didn't do this, the one in the States?
No, I want to do it in the States, obviously.
Yeah,
that would be good. Yeah, so hopefully at least some of the countries we can visit as soon as possible.
Yeah. What about are you gonna tour the solo record, or was that just kind of something you wanted to get out?
No. I really want to perform it live. So that's the idea. But I have to admit that because we didn't have like a big business plan, or we didn't have any plan whatsoever. So instead of doing the right thing to plan it half a year in advance and all of that, it was just, I got booked to this big festival. I knew I was going to do the show in this huge hall. I was going to have the strings there and blah, blah, blah. So I just decided, oh, I'm playing there in 2 months. Let's put that as a release date.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Terrible idea.
No, that makes that makes sense, right?
Yeah, at least it did for me, but I don't think it was necessarily too clever. Yet again, I don't care, because I just wanted to do that. So so we released an album, but before this summer, it was very hard to do many shows this summer because things are still pretty much shut down. And what's open is already booked, right? But what I really want to do is, it's very hard to tour with those kind of strings, because I mean, just the cello itself is like probably like $40,000, right? You can't travel with. Yeah, I mean, these people's instruments are 300 years old.
Sure.
Right. So, and
weren't you a cello player?
Yeah, I was. How do you know that?
I just know these things, man. Well, like Nostradamus.
Yeah. You're like Nardwar.
Nardwar.
He once interviewed me.
Did you really get interviewed? He's fun. What did he give you as a gift? Doesn't he always bring somebody a gift?
This was before he became like massively famous. It was a TV radio interview on an old shitty cell phone, so I could barely hear what he said, and it was so weird. I really had to concentrate not to say, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man?" Like, he was such a weirdo. Like, I'm playing a show. I have 30 minutes to eat before the rest of this day is kind of hysteric, and I have to do this interview, and I don't understand your humor. Right. Like, I really had to concentrate because I didn't know who he was. But then, and it was so poor, I couldn't hear what he said really. But I'm very happy it happened. Like, again, if you go to DATAROCK's Instagram, you can see animated segments of the interview.
Really? I'll have to check it out. That's funny.
Yeah, so it's all on Instagram and on DATAROCK's official YouTube channel. Doesn't have a lot of views, but it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I know. I got to check it out now. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
go ahead.
Excuse me.
Nothing.
No, just to reply your question. I really want to. Not that too many people cares, I guess, but I really want to do some shows with just the guitar and voice, because you never see that, or very rarely see that. Especially for someone who has done 1,000 shows and has had some kind of a little bit of a commercial success with very overly produced music, and you just say, this is the essence of this crap. It's just 6 strings and a vocal, you know.
Which is fascinating to think about, right? I mean,
it is. So yeah. So and I love, like, you know, when you end up in, I bet you have like 1,000 places like that in Nashville, but you know, like the Troubadour and in Los Angeles, when you see like really stripped down shows there, or a tiny little place like Pianos in New York City, or I really like it when you can, with so few means, you can create images and emotions, right? So I really want to do that.
So that maybe that'll be on the books, solo guitar tour.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't, but I want to do it.
That's cool. No, I think you definitely should do it. That would be. I think people would love that. I love seeing those type of shows. This really stripped down, like acoustic shows, when a frontman of a band will come through town and they're just playing their songs on maybe an acoustic guitar or electric guitar, or I think there's something really special about that.
One of my favorite moments, because I used to book shows, like hundreds and hundreds of shows. So I was what is it called?
Like a promoter? Okay.
Yeah. And so I actually my own event was called Fredrik's Wonderful Evening because it was so crazy. Like
That's
half
cool.
of it was noise artists and like
that should be your tour for your solo tour. Fredrik's Wonderful Evening.
Okay, got it. All right, deal. No, but like we would have like ruins from Japan and like really like Russell Haswell and Florian Hacker and all these like absolutely lunatics. But I was kind of presented like a variety show and like or like take the microphone and say like shut up everybody, pay attention to the stage. We have this Japanese dude that you'll never hear about ever again, but pay attention, motherfuckers. And then everybody would like gather around the stage like it was a jazz show or so, and then it would be some lunatic act, right? And it was always jam-packed, like 350 on a Sunday for a Japanese duo nobody had ever heard about before. Anyways, one day Archer Pruitt and Sam Prekop from the Sea and Cake, the Chicago band Sea and Cake, they were in town and they played a show so poorly promoted that nobody was there. And I went up to them and I said, dude, I mean, you have such a following in this city. It's embarrassing to see that nobody showed up to your show. Would you want to play at my place tomorrow? And I can assure you, we'll jam pack the place. And they said, yeah, why not? We're here. And then next day, Archer Pruitt and Sam Prekop, they came over to the club, and which was in a gallery, by the way. So it was like carpet on the floor, actually up on the walls. Very peculiar place. And it looked like a scene out of, what is it called? 2001 Space
Oddity?
Yeah. Looked like something like that. And they had a Dinochord guitar, identical guitars, and they had like Fender twin amps, and that was it. So you have these two men sitting on bar stools, and then identical guitars, identical amplifiers, that's it. And 300 people were just, completely quiet, and it was just magical for 1.5 hours, completely jammed by 24-hour notice. And when you hear two men sit like that and just, no effects on the guitar, no nothing. It was just fucking amazing,
Yeah.
And you rarely experience that. I guess you in certain genres you do, but not in alternative experimental music, not ever, right?
Mm-hmm. I think you should do it. I think people will love that. I think that'll be something special especially for, longtime DATAROCK fans to see you just come up and play guitar and sing.
Okay, I'll do it. And what's really interesting is because so many people have heard me sing, they shout and scream, sing, right? Mm-hmm. And because they're so used to this shouting and screaming, they become very impressed when I can sing like normal.
Right.
So like, oh, you're such a good singer. I'm probably not a better singer than anyone, but because they're so used to this screaming, they're like, oh, it's so nice when you sing, because I don't scream, right? So they're like, oh, I really loved the show. It was so soothing.
Yeah, that's great.
Just because it's such an opposite
of
to,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, okay, I'll do it. It's a deal.
Think you should.
All right.
So
said by you, accepted by me.
And play in Nashville. We'll figure it out.
High five. Deal.
Oh, I love it. And thank you, Fredrikc, so much for doing this, man. You are so cool. I really appreciate it.
Well, likewise. Thank you so much. You made my day. I'm sitting in Norway. It's a boring day, and then I get to talk to a guy in Nashville. That's cool. Thank you.
This is cool. Thank you so much. I have one more question before I let you go.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Yeah, I recently, I don't remember his name, but some top producer guy. I don't remember I'm so sorry. I don't remember his name, but I was at this conference where this question was asked by a young producer. And then he said something which is so obvious to me, but obviously not obvious to everyone else. And he said, for instance, electronic production used to be so depending on your skills and your access to equipment and stuff. So electronic music used to be so individualistic because you really had to know how to twist and turn the machinery and the programs and stuff. But today, music is so generic and so similar because people are using so many presets and exactly the same equipment, and it's no big difference between really expensive and pretty affordable equipment and sound banks and all of that. And he said, so it's very easy for a young person to somehow copy or put their songwriting or production very close to something that is already commercially successful. It's very easy. So you can probably take whatever mega hit, and
a lot of them are like that. The first thing I think of is Olivia Rodrigo, how she's blowing up, but a lot of her stuff is a little too similar to other songs that were already.
I know, and he just said because I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but he said he's been part of so many successes, but he has never been part of a success which was a replica of something already existing, right? So chance is that even if you can really emulate whatever is already out there, it's too late. That ship is gone. Nobody wants you to do the same as someone else. And if you try to copy someone else, that someone else probably is going to make a much better version of themselves than you're able to, right? So I don't think necessarily anyone can learn anything from DATAROCK or should learn anything from DATAROCK, but we've been like super true to just doing our thing. Like when we made Fa Fa Fa, that was a Talking Heads inspired song, but nobody had been listening to Talking Heads for like 20 years when we released that song. Like we released it in 2005 in 5, and last time Talking Heads released anything was a song to a film in 1991, and nobody was listening to Talking Heads. So we didn't take inspiration from Talking Heads and television, by the way, for that song because we thought it was clever. It was just because that was our thing. We took inspiration from all sorts of super odd sources. We never tried to do a clever move. We just tried to find our signature sound, kind of. And then our signature was to take elements from all sorts of different things, I have to admit. But I think my only advice is to do exactly what you want. And if you don't do exactly what you want, you might end up doing something that you're not proud of, or that it'll be uncomfortable for you. And so you should focus on your individuality and your own signature.